Hey guys, Batunia here. Today we are going to go over the basics of Holy Paladin. Now this is a page out of Sidhu's book from Legion. He used to do a lot of videos like this where he went over the basics of this healer. And I want to kind of bring that back to life because Sidhu doesn't really do videos like this anymore, and he's my mentor when it comes to the healing world. He's the one that I look towards as a learning healer. So I want to do my best to try and kind of revitalize that for today's time. Now why am I doing Holy Paladin out of my other healers? Well, because Holy Paladin is the most popular. It's the healer that most people are swapping to and kind of giving a shot. So I find it's the perfect time to kind of make a video like this. So this is going to span across 4 videos. We're going to do the rotation, the builds for Holy Paladin, the cooldown rotation, and then the positioning in your RBGs and arenas. The 4 basic necessities I think every healer should know about the healer they're playing. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, leave a like right down below, and let's get right into it. So let's talk about the hero talents first, since that's kind of what is the basis of the build you're going to play. Herald of the Sun and Lightsmith are the available hero talents for Holy Paladin. We'll start with Herald of the Sun first. Herald of the Sun is really good. It offers consistent healing, spread healing. It offers really good throughput, and it offers rotational help. And also potentially offers a nice good amount of damage. So Dawn Light is really good consistently. It is extra healing. Holy Prism, Barrier Faith causes your next 2 holy power spending abilities to apply Dawn Light on your target, dealing radiant damage or healing over 8 seconds. This also does radiate to 5 targets, enemies or allies. Really good. It's just a really powerful hot. Honestly, I think it's probably it's one of the most powerful hots in the entire game. It's really strong. Eternal Flame is from Warlords of Draenor. If you played back then, you had Eternal Flame. The only difference between then and now is that it used to be 40% increased healing when cast on yourself, now it's 25%. Maybe 50%, I'm not too sure, but it's changed a little bit from Warlords of Draenor. So really good. It heals more than Ward of Glory and applies a heal over time, which is really nice. And these heal over times that Herald of the Sun gives you is really good because of this proc right here, Blessing of Anshi. Your damage and healing over time effects have a chance to increase the healing and damage of your next Holy Shock by 200%. PvP, it's 150%, but it's really great. You know, Herald of the Sun offers a more heal over time playstyle for Holy Paladin, which is really a nice refresher, especially with how they screwed up Glimmer of Light for the Holy Paladin and Dragonflight. Kind of like how they kind of just reverted just a standard heal over time build for Herald of the Sun. Really great. And yeah, it just offers a lot of rotational help. You know, you have the crit power from Luminosity. You have the extra heal over time from Sunseer by getting those crits. It obviously funnels into Blessing of Anshi. You have Second Sunrise that allows you to cast Holy Shock again, potentially, which also gives you a little more healing and also gives you some more holy power generation. Really good. You get some haste from Solar Grace. You get Aurora. So whenever I cast my Divine Purpose whenever I cast my Holy Prism and my Barrier of Faith, I'll get Divine Purpose, which is a very good proc. It allows me to cast my Holy Power Spender, be it on damage or healing, for free, and it deals 15% increased damage and healing. Really good, again, that rotational help. And these talent nodes are kind of interesting. You have Morning Star or Gleaming Rays. I think Morning Stars is a little bit better. You have good healing of Dawnlight. Dawnlight is a really large sum of your healing, and Morning Star just simply buffs that. You have Morning Star stacking up to 10 times, 5% each stack. It's just a lot of healing. You know, at least one of your 2 Dawn Lights that are available every 30 seconds is going to be empowered, and that Dawn Light is going to do some really good work. Gleaming Rays is only 5% increased healing and damage for your Holy Power Spenders so long as your Dawn Light's active. It's not that great. I mean, Dawn Light only lasts for 8 seconds. It's not that long, so you're really only going to get like maybe 2 spenders in there. Not that great in my opinion. Illume versus Will of Dawn, completely up to you. I personally like Illume more. It's more beneficial. 50% slow if I use Dawn Light on an enemy, which is a really powerful slow. That's like not even some DPS don't even have 50% slow. They have like 30%, really weak. So for a healer to have a 50% slow, it's pretty nice. You have also 20% movement speed on allies if you do put your Dawn Light on your friendlies. So very nice. Will of Dawn is okay. It's just 5% movement speed while above 80% HP, and 40% increased movement speed when I fall below 35%. I don't know. It's just not impactful at all. I don't really see a world where you'd rather run that over Illume. And then back to Blessing of Anshi. This talent, Linger Radiance, is a PvE talent, so don't even worry about this PvP. You're going to be sticking with Blessing of Anshi forever. Sun's Avatar is the last talent for Herald of the Sun. Really powerful talent. So the first bit here, During our Avenging Wrath, we become linked to all of our Dawn Lights on our allies and enemies, and we can do some nice little tick healing here. Nothing really too impactful, it's just kind of free healing you don't have to think about. Any enemies and allies that walk past it will kind of get some healing and damage. Really nice. The last bit here is what we really care about. Activating Dawn Light applies up to 4 Dawn Lights onto nearby allies and enemies and increases Dawn Light's duration by 20%. So that's a lot of dot damage. That's a lot of healing during our Avenging Wrath. Really good. So hopefully I can actually go into my... Hopefully my Avenging Wrath procs my Dawn Lights. Okay, well, procs on this guy at least. So very nice. You see I'm becoming linked to this guy. And really nice. You see I'm linked to this little target dummy as well. So it's just it's a nice little extra bit of healing, a nice little extra bit of damage if enemies walk past it. But yeah, proccing up to 4 Dawn Lights is really, really strong. Again, it just makes Avenging Wrath feel so much more powerful, which is really good. Now, Lightsmith is interesting. Lightsmith, I don't want to be biased, and I don't want to be like, I want to kind of give Lightsmith its own props with Herald to kind of make it seem more appealing for everyone to run what they want, but I'm going to be honest, I cannot think of anything that Lightsmith offers over Herald. I'll just explain Lightsmith. The way Lightsmith works is that it's revolving around these holy armaments. This is what the spec is about. These holy armaments are defensive and offensive-ish. So 1-minute recharge, cycle between the two whenever you use them. Holy Bulwark is the defensive. While wielding a Holy Bulwark, you gain an absorb shield for 15% of your maximum health, and an additional 2% every 2 seconds, lasts 20 seconds. Pretty nice. The Sacred Weapon is a bit of extra damage and healing. So while wielding a sacred weapon, your spells and abilities have a chance to deal additional holy damage for healing to nearby targets. Effect is increased when striking a single target, reduced beyond 5 targets, last 20 seconds. So it's pretty much just weaving between the 2 armaments. All right, you place on this on an ally. Or you are a horde, yes. Place on this guy, see this guy gets my bulwark, and it's absorbing pretty nicely. 50% of our max HP. It's kind of like a juicier chi cocoon for a mystery monk. About like half of a cocoon for a mystery monk is kind of what we're working with. Like a buffed, I guess, like a single buffed powered shield. I'm trying to compare this. So it's a nice little absorb shield. It's 15% of our max HP. It's about 1,000,000. It's pretty nice. Strike weapon offers us a bit of consistency, a bit of consistent healing, and for our DPS, a little bit of consistent damage. It's not too bad. And really, the whole function of Lightsmith is just kind of buffing these armaments, kind of getting them out, proccing them as much as we can. And we can see this through a lot of these talents. So let's kind of go down the road here. We have these 2, which are actually weapon imbues. So for Rest of Shaman, it'd be like your Wind Fury, your Earth Living Weapon. Right Sanctification is piss poor stats, 5% armor, 2% primary stat. It's really weak, but unfortunately, the other one is much weaker. So with Adjuration, you get 3% extra stamina. It's okay, but you get this ability to proc some healing at the target location with your holy power abilities. And the healing is nice. It's actually about like 600k a tick. It's really good, but the problem is it does not proc. I've done many RBGs, full length, full high dampening 3s, and this just does not proc. I'm pretty sure I did an epic battleground at some point, and it only procced once. In an epic battleground that lasted like 20 minutes. It's sad. So I'd rather take piss poor stats than something that does not proc at all. If they fix the proc chance or even just redid these weapon imbues, because I feel like they're just really weak in general, I'd be happy. But unfortunately, they have not done that. So looking more into the armaments, these talents to the left here, or I guess down this whole middle row, is kind of affecting more so of our armaments. So Solidarity is really great. It basically makes it so we will have the ability to proc or to use our armaments on 2 targets, so myself and another target at all times. So if I use my armament on myself, it'll plop another one onto the nearest ally, and if I use it on an ally, it'll plop one onto me. So basically, I'm always going to have an armament, which is the most important thing. So if I use it on this target dummy, target dummy, I use it on him, you see I'll get the armament as well, and if I use it on myself, it'll plop my armament onto another target. So you see, it's very nice to kind of keep armaments on myself at all times. Now we also have Divine Inspiration, which is a really great talent. Your spells and abilities have a chance to manifest a holy armament for a nearby ally. Really good. This is awesome because it's for any spell. It's not like specifically your holy power spenders or specifically holy power generators. No, it's any spell you do. Simply reapplying my beacons will cleansing has a chance to proc your armaments. Really good. The other one, forewarning, is not that great. The cooldown of holy armaments is reduced by 20%. Not that, who cares about that? You really just kind of, I'm using my armaments pretty much off CD. The minute they come up, I'm using them the minute they come up. And the ability to proc them kind of throughout the game is really great with Divine Inspiration. And then Valiance, consuming Infusion of Light reduces the cooldown of holy armaments by 3 seconds. Nice. Very nice. So moving on to the side talents, they're all kind of just quality of, quote-unquote, quality of life, I guess. Laying down arms reduces the cooldown of your land hands by 15 seconds whenever an armament fades. Really nice, and you gain Infusion of Light as well, so you're actually getting land hands back off really quickly as a Lightsmith, and then also getting Infusion of Light, which of course weaves into Valiance. Shared Resolve is a little bit of increase to your aura. It's not that great. 3% goes to 4% when we have an armament on ourselves. Not that great. And then concentration aura goes from 40% to from 30%. It's just whatever. I really wish, honestly, this was buffed or just changed. Maybe even give us a new aura. Not too sure, but right now it's very weak. So we have Hammer and Vanville, which is actually really good. So as I said before, I try to Judgment on an off CD. It's something I prioritize as much as Holy Shock. Anyways, the Lightsmith, it's definitely the case. So when you get critical strikes of Judgment, you'll get this nice Hammer Vanville proc that'll do a lot of healing. The max I've seen it hit for is above 1,000,000 for just a proc of just throwing Judgment out there. And it's AoE healing too. The radius is about 20 yards. So it's really great. Hopefully I can get a crit right here. Maybe? Nope, no crit. Unfortunate. But yeah, it does a lot of healing. So for Lightsmith, you're looking to Judgment off CD. Of course, if you can't find the window, don't force it. You know, make sure your team is topped with your normal healing spells. But outside of that, definitely trying to weave in the Judgments. It's just a lot of extra healing. You see there, it ticked that guy for 1.5 mil. That's a lot of healing. That is very normal in Arena. So very good. And then coming up here, we have Tempered in Battle versus Authoritative Rebuke. Tempered in Battle is basically Spirit Link. The overhealing, the first bit is whatever. When you're wielding a Holy Bulwark, anyone who's healed above maximum HP will transfer 100% of the overhealing to an ally. We don't care about that. When you or an ally wielding a sacred weapon drops below 40% health, you redistribute your health immediately in every 1 second. This is just a very much more reliable version of Spirit Link Totem for the rest of Shaman. So really good. It's a lot of healing. This honestly is going to be one of your top healing throughout the entire game. So really powerful spell. Sort of Rebuke. I wouldn't even play this if I was melee wings. 2 seconds off my Rebuke. I don't really care about that too much. So don't really care. Divine Guidance or Blessed Assurance. They're both kind of really interesting talents. And when I mean interesting, I mean just kind of not good. Not poorly designed in the sense that they don't interact correctly or interact with certain spells. So for each Holy Power ability cast, your next Consecration deals damage or healing split amongst all enemies and allies. So this stacks up to 5 times, so you can actually get some really nice healing with this, but 90%, if not 100% of the time, this is only going to affect you, because you're not going to be running into the enemy's face and just plopping a Consecration down. And fortunately, this is not affected by Righteous Judgment, so if you throw a Judgment out there and you do happen to proc a Consecration, it will not proc your Divine Guidance, which is just the most stupidest non-interaction in the game. So yeah, it's just extra healing that you put on yourself. Nothing really too insane. Blessed Assurance, casting Holy Power ability increases the damage and healing of your next Crusader Strike by 120%, 40% in PvP combat. It's okay for melee wings. It's kind of the only reason why you'd play it, but nothing really too special about this. So Lightsmith is really, I don't know, it's really awkward. Blessing of the Forge is the last talent for Lightsmith. It's just really nice, actually. So this basically procs a Sacred Weapon. It makes it so the Sacred Weapon actually casts guaranteed spell at the target and echoes the effects of your Holy Power ability. So really good. You can get some really good healing. This is like a guaranteed way to get healing, because you read the tooltip. Sacred Weapon is a proc chance whenever you're casting your damaging offensive holy healing spells, whereas Blessing of the Forge is guaranteed whenever you're casting all your healing and damaging spells. So you're getting just some raw extra healing. Now, this is really unique, has a really unique interaction. So, Awakening is a talent down here that in combat, it stacks depending on how many Holy Power spenders I use. When I get to 15 stacks, my next Judgment will critically strike, do 40% increased damage, and proc Avenging Wrath for 12 seconds. So this actually does proc your Blessing of the Forge. So if you go into your Avenging Wrath, and then you go into an Awakening Avenging Wrath, you will have two Blessing of the Forge sacred weapons out there. And they're both proccing, they're both working as intended. They're both proccing their healing and damage. So you get a lot of extra damage and healing as in this Blessing of the Forge window. I don't know if it works the other way around, where if I go into my Awakening Wings and then go into my Avenging Wrath. I don't know if it works that way, but I kind of just naturally go into my Avenging Wrath and then into an Awakening as the safety measure. So yeah, kind of a unique little interaction there. But yeah, Lightsmith is it's just not that great in terms of a real, it doesn't really offer anything over Herald. It doesn't really give you the rotational help. It doesn't really give you any real consistent healing. It doesn't put up numbers, which is what Herald does. And the defense power of Bulwark is nice, especially if you're really proccing your armaments out the booty with Divine Inspiration. Lightsmith feels pretty nice, but in reality, it's kind of like there's no reason to play Lightsmith over Herald of the Sun. There's no world where Lightsmith would be better than Herald of the Sun. And maybe you're facing some CC combos. Maybe you're dying in stuns. Maybe that's the case. Maybe you're being CC'd the entire game, and something like Tempered in Battle is really nice to have. Other than that, I just can't really think of any other reason to play Lightsmith over Herald of the Sun. So Herald of the Sun is the, by far, much better hero talent. So going over the talents here, we'll go for Arena first. This is a very standard Arena build. This build really helps with a lot of in-between damage, in-between goes where you don't have your wings. This gives you a lot of support during that downtime. Specifically with Aura Mastery. Aura Mastery is really good. So taking Unnerving Spirits and Divine Vision will drop Aura Mastery from a 3-minute cooldown to a 1.5-minute cooldown. And this is just really good. Combined with Devotion Aura, which is really only what I use Aura Mastery with. I rarely use it for Concentration Aura. It will give your entire party 24% damage reduction, which is honestly makes it one of the best cooldowns in the game for a healer. A 1.5-minute cooldown, an AoE 24% damage reduction, amazing. I mean, what AoE effects can you kind of think of that can be better than that? Powered Barrier for this priest is 3-minute cooldown, 25% damage reduction, and it's a ground type effect. Your own team walks out of your ground effects. They walk out of your Powered Barrier. They walk out of your Earthern. So this is impossible to range, possible to not get value out of. Really great. It's also one of the best pre-used defensives in the game. So because it's such a short CD, you're not really punished if you do mess up on it. If you pre-aura a grip, it's great. If you miss it, it's whatever. You still have sack available. Amazing skill. One of the best defensive skills amongst all healers. Protection of Tier is just not good enough. It has really no synergy with Divine Vision, and 10% increased healing is really not that powerful at all. So going over all the other in-between help, we have Awakening. Awakening is really good. While in combat, your Holy Power spenders generate a stack of Awakening. At 15 stacks, your Judgment will do more damage, crit, and give you Avenging Wrath for 12 seconds. This takes about a minute to ramp up, so having wings almost every minute is really, really, really powerful. So just kind of getting a lot of that extra bit of healing there. We have Tears of Deliverance. Tears of Deliverance is one of our main cooldowns here. Pretty much using this off CD. So it pretty much makes it so it'll affect 5 targets, and all those 5 targets will get some healing every 0.9 seconds. Cool. What we really care about is this final effect right here. 12% increased healing from your Holy Shock, Holy Light, and Flash of Light is really, really impactful. Now, this may not seem that great. A little bit of piss healing and 12% increase for 12 seconds. Who really cares about that? Boundless Libation is what makes your Deliverance worth it. This will give you the ability to extend it with your Holy Shock, Flash of Light, Holy Light, 8 seconds, 4 seconds, 2 seconds, up to maximum 40 seconds. So for pretty much a minute, you can have Tears of Deliverance, and you're basically just having 12% increased healing for nearly the entire game. Really, really powerful in terms of usage. Again, I use it off CD. I will use this in the opener. The minute the gates open up, I'll just Tears Deliverance and then kind of pop a Divine Toll out there just to kind of extend the duration. Those 5 Divine Tolls is about, 10 seconds. The next 3 is about, 6 seconds. And then it's just a lot of healing. It's just a lot of healing that you're going to get, especially when you have stuff like Second Sunrise has a chance to proc Holy Shock again. You're just extending Tears Deliverance out just by doing your rotation. Really, really powerful. And then once you get out of CC, your Tears Deliverance should be extended enough to the point where it's not going to fall off if you are CC chained, so that you can go into your wings and just kind of pop off, get your real healing out there, and then get your Tears Deliverance ramped up to its maximum duration. Very, very powerful. Now, going over, I guess, these two here. These are the main bread and butter of Herald of the Sun. So, Holy Prism or Barrier of Faith. I choose Barrier of Faith for Arena. Such a good talent here. 30-second cooldown, last 24 seconds. This basically is available the entire game. So, every 6 seconds, the effective healing you do with Holy Shock, Flash of Light, and Holy Light, 20% of that will be transferred into an Absorb Shield every 6 seconds. Very, very powerful. It's effective healing, so no overhealing. Very, very powerful. It's just consistent healing. This has always been a talent for Holy Paladin where it's kind of patched up the this class is missing something aspect of Holy Paladin, and Barrier of Faith has always been a very lovely talent to have, so very good. Now, Divine Favor over Hand of Divinity. I choose Divine Favor more. It procs off of your Barrier of Faith, and Hand of Divinity is a 1.5 minute cooldown, so I'm basically going to get 3 Divine Favors by the time Hand of Divinity comes back off cooldown. Hand of Divinity is very good to kind of, match up with Aura Mastery, Tears of Deliverance. Again, 1.5 minute cooldown, 1.5 minute cooldown, 1.5 minute cooldown. Every 1.5 minutes, you're always going to have Tears of Deliverance, you're always going to have Aura Mastery available, you're always going to have Hand of Divinity, you're going to have a lot of healing, you're going to have a lot of defense, so Hand of Divinity does line up with that very, very nicely. It causes your next 2 Holy Lights to deal 30% more healing, cost 50% less mana, and be instant cast. So 2 instant cast Holy Lights to dump into Tears of Deliverance. That's 16 seconds by just simply pressing Holy Light. Very, very good. However, I choose Divine Favor. It's a bit more powerful. It only affects 1 Flash of Light or Holy Light, but the healing of it is 40%, which is really great. It does have a cast time. So if I get a nice little Infusion Light proc here, hopefully, Infusion Light, here we go. I pop my Barrier of Faith, I get my Divine Favor, and then I get a nice big Holy Light here. Hopefully crits. Not that bad. It usually in PvP combat hits for about 2 million. The highest I've seen my Holy Light hit for is about 3.7, so you can get some really big Holy Light healing with Divine Favor. Hand Divinity, same thing, just 10% less, so not that big of a deal, but if you feel like you're dying in between your goes, you feel like Aura Mastery and Tears of Deliverance is not really that powerful in your POV, that you could definitely take Hand Divinity to kind of help with that. But if you you want the rotational bit of help every 30 seconds, you're going to have a nice, really big heal, then I like Divine Favor, and I would recommend Divine Favor. Blessing of Summer is amazing. Blessing of Summer has always been kind of one of the nice little aspects of Holy Paladin. I'm really glad they've decided to keep it for this long. So, Blessing of Summer gives you 4 blessings: summer, winter, autumn, and spring, the seasons of our natural time. And they each have really nice, powerful effects. So, Blessing of Summer is your DPS effect. 45-second cooldown, 30-second duration, swaps to autumn after its usage. This will cause 12% of all healing done to be converted into damaging a nearby enemy, and 12% of all damage done to be converted into healing an injured ally within 40 yards. So, who do you use this on? I use this on myself, because I value the damage more, especially during my wings. It's just God mode. You're doing healing, you're doing damage by just existing, by just simply spamming your rotation. It's super powerful damage. The healing of it is not that impactful at all. I don't really think it helps me. If I Blessing of Summer my DPS to kind of help with healing against rots and against heavy CC chains, it just doesn't feel like it's enough. It just feels like a really bad ancestral guidance for a shaman. So I don't bother with the healing aspect at all. I simply just place it on myself and just do omega damage. Really, really powerful. So this will then go to Autumn. Autumn is your CDR, your rotational help season. So you will get 30% cooldown recovery on all your spells. Really nice for the Holy Paladin to get, Holy Shock and Judgment off cooldown quicker to kind of smooth out the rotation. And really for any of your DPS that might need the extra bit of help. Maybe your Feral Druid is kind of struggling with the brutal slashes coming off quicker. Maybe they're not getting a lot of procs, so maybe you can help them out. Maybe your Fear Warrior is getting Carpal Tunnel, so you want to give them even more Carpal Tunnel. You'll get the Blessing of Autumn. Your DH, whoever it is, it's a rotational help button, and it really can affect everyone and everyone. So, really powerful. We have, I believe, Blessing of Spring is the next one. Now, Blessing of Spring can be kind of confusing for some people. So it has 2 effects. One of them is increasing the healing done by 15%. The other one is increasing the healing received by 30%. So both really powerful. But what do you want to use it during the situation? If your team is dying, everyone's dying, your DPS are dying, you're dying as well, a lot of cleave pressure, you will put Blessing of Spring on yourself. You will have 15% increased healing done, so you're just going to have raw healing increase. Now, if they're just training one target to the ground, be it you or one of your DPS, you will put Blessing of Spring on that target because they will receive 30% increased healing. Much more powerful if you really just need the throughput on that one target. Blitz Blitzing a Spring on that target, and you will have so much more help getting them, making sure they are recoverable. Very powerful. Some people kind of confuse the two, kind of misplace it, you know. So just kind of thought I'd clarify that a bit more. And then the last one is Winter. Winter is absolutely amazing. Winter is one of the best mana regeneration talents in the game. 1% every 2 seconds, 15% in total. So place that on yourself whenever you need the mana. I tend not to sit on my blessings at all. Like I'll just simply send them whenever they come off cooldown. So very, very powerful little skills here. Beacon of Faith, really nice. Your beacon serve as your main way of spread healing. Beacon of Light, Beacon of Faith right here. 20% of the healing I do to other targets are not my beacon targets will heal them for 20% of the healing. So you see here, they're getting healed. Really, really powerful. Probably one of the best spread healing talents in the game. So really love Beacon of Light and Beacon of Faith. It's really powerful. So for other brackets that you can potentially run other skills, we can take out Tyrion's Devotion for Shuffle. You're not really going to get 2 Lay on Hands, so kind of take that out. And then you can put this really into any other point. If you want Righteous Judgment, if you're facing, you know, Frost Mages, DKs, anything that has really persistent slows, you can run the combination of Consecrated Ground, Righteous Judgment, and Hallowed Ground. Very powerful talents. These combinations will make it so your Consecration is 50% larger, has a 50% slow on enemies that are in it, procs off of your Judgment, and will also suppress every snare and root effect so long as your targets, your allies are in the Consecration. Very, very powerful with making sure they have uptime. So very, very good. Or you can put this in like Immune Infusions. Immune Infusion is nice. 1 second off of your Holy Shock whenever you consume a Infusion of Light proc. Really nice. If you feel like you're struggling with not getting Holy Shocks off cooldown quicker, you can definitely run that. Shining Righteousness is good. I actually run this for 2s. That's specifically what I run for 2s. I will run Shining Righteousness combined with Denounce. This gives me a lot of extra damage for 2v2. Shining Righteousness basically makes it so the target I hit first with Denounce will take a little bit of extra damage, and Denounce is obviously some good damage in itself, and then we'll apply an anti-crit effect on that target. Casting 5 Denounces will give me a free Word of Glory. So very nice. Let's see if I can just kind of just get my my stuff here. So you see we're denouncing this target. You'll see that it's doing about 400k damage combined with a nice little 100k with the Shining Righteous. The Shining Righteous also has a chance to proc as well, so very good. So you saw that I got a nice little Divine Purpose proc, and I get my last little thing there. So they both crit, both my Denounce and my Shining Righteous crit. That was like about 800 damage plus. Very good. And then I get a free Word of Glory. Really, really nice damage from Denounce. Crit for 643k, crit for 191. Really, really good damage. In 2s, I just value being able to hurt the enemy as much as I can. The extra bit of damage you can do as a healer in 2s is exponentially important. So that's what I take, and don't really take anything else. So the Paladin talent tree will explain universally for amongst the board, RBGs, arena, whatnot. It's all the same. It is a bunch of flex points in here. So over here we have Dispel talents, only taking this against your heavy dot classes, the Shadow Priests, the Aflocks, the DKs, constantly dispelling, staying ahead of the damage. Just Reward helps a little bit with that. Going for those dispels will give you some nice healing with Just Reward. It will proc off of every single dispel. So you cleanse 7 dots, this will proc 7 times. So you'll get a lot of extra healing from Just Reward. And then over here we have our CC. Whichever one you want is whichever one you're going to kind of set up your CC with. Repentance is more so for a lot of aggro Holy Paladins. If you're going to be playing aggro, finding the Repentances as best as you can. Repentance is super good. Now if you feel like you're going to be punished a lot, or if you are getting punished a lot, you're getting kicked, you're not able to get the Repentances off as frequently as possible, Blinding Light is a much safer option. It's instant, it's AoE, 6 seconds, hodge into that, nice little CC chain. You can also use it for defensive play as well, if you want to run in AoE blind to kind of buy you some time, recover in that 6 seconds. Hopefully no one breaks your blind. Yeah, really nice. Unless you're playing with dot classes and they kind of, really hate you for dispelling all their dots, yeah. But who cares? I'm trying to save us, alright? So, very nice talent here, but Repentance is definitely very good with Light's Continuance, which makes Repentance spammable, removes the cooldown off of it by reducing it by 15 seconds, which is the cooldown of Repentance, so really good. You saw in AWC in Cup 4, the difference between Absturge and Zhang was that Absturge was playing super aggro with Repentances, and Zhang was not. That's what won in the game. An aggro Holy Paladin is one of the most aggravating things to deal with, because nobody kicks Repentance. It's so annoying. So coming down here, your freedom talents, Blessing of Freedom is always a lock-in. The only time you ever run Sea Liberty is versus a Boomkin that has Root Beam. So, and you are confident that you don't need Blessing of Freedom. You're confident that you are going to be able to make sure your melee are going to have the uptime without Freedom, and your casters can kite without the Freedom. Sea Liberty, good against the Boomkins to Divine Steed out of the Root Beam. Now down here is your Divine Toll talents. These are more impactful now with Rising Sunlight. So 5 Resonance used to be a lot better back then because you had Glimmer of Light. The extra Divine Tools you got from Divine Resonance kind of proc those Glimmer of Lights, gave you a little bit of healing. Now that does not exist. So we take Quick Invocation because it reduces the cooldown of Divine Toll by 15 seconds, and Rising Sunlight now affects Divine Toll. So after casting Divine Toll, your next 2 Holy Shocks cast 2 additional times. Getting Divine Toll off cooldown much quicker to make use of the Rising Sunlight is definitely super impactful. So you see there, my Holy Shocks are casting, 2 additional times. A lot of extra damage, a lot of extra healing. Getting Divine Toll quicker gives you more Rising Sunlights throughout the entire game. Really, really nice. Your kind of rotational help skill here, Sacred Strength or Divine Purpose. I like Divine Purpose more. I think it's just a much better option. Has the ability to kind of smooth out your rotation by giving you the chance to proc a free Word of Glory or Denounce and make it do a 15% increased damage or healing. Super powerful. Sacred Strength 2% on your Holy Power spenders is nothing great. So I would not take this ever. Now coming down here, we have our little kind of flex point talents here. So Improved Blessing and Protection I like for kind of all, maybe not for 2s, you can definitely take this out, but for 3s and for Blitz as well, we're trying to Blitz Shuffle. But for 3s, I really like having 60 seconds off of my Blessing and Protection. You can be very loose, you can use bop pretty early, and then your second charge, you can maybe sit on it a little bit, but at the end of the day, your arena matches last about 4 to 5 minutes on average, so you will get Blessing and Protection back very quickly with 60 seconds off of it. So I like Improved Blessing and Protection. I always take Sacrifice to the Just for all my arena shenanigans. 15 seconds off of Blessing Stack is really nice. If you feel like you can do without this, then you can maybe put this point to something else that you might like. But for now, we're going to take Sacrifice to the Just. It's a very safety talent. Now down here, all your flex points. Faith's Armor, you're facing anything that has physical damage. You are swap to healer. Very easy to get swapped to as a Holy Paladin. You will take Faith's Armor. It's a nice 20% armor for 4.5 seconds. So really, really great. Now this does not affect your team, meaning if I Word of Glory this lovely, beautiful, sexy Nightborn, what the hell are those shoulders anyway? If I am to Word of Glory this Nightborn lady right here, she will not get the 20% extra armor. I'll get the armor, so it only affects me no matter who I heal. So very good to have 20% bonus armor throughout the entire game. Makes it so you can kind of survive the swap goes very easily. Over here we have Stoicism, so only taking lead to charge just for Stoicism. Stoicism is really good. Stoicism is 20% reduced duration on stuns. It's the same thing as Hardiness for Orcs. Really, really powerful to kind of help break up those CC chains by making those stuns happen quicker, so you can get out of the chains faster. So really, really great against your standard rogues, your warriors, your frost DKs, or Morsel of Winter stuns. So really, really nice. If you're facing a comp that doesn't really have too many stuns back to back, you can definitely take this out, your caster comps and whatnot. So definitely take this out and put this into somewhere else. If you're taking this out, might as well take out Lead the Charge. I take Holy Ritual just for pathing. That's only the reason why I take it. The healing of it is bad. I only take it for the pathing to get my talents down here. Now, we have this talent right here. French Protection is really good for your DKs, your rogues, your Shadow Priest. A lot of people forget that Shadow Priest Divine Plague is a disease, so really great talent here. I never take Willy Sacrifice in any situation. These talents over here are kind of awkward a little. A Blessed Calling is 15% increased movement speed on your blessings. Don't really matter too much. Honestly, I wish this was affected by your Blessing of Summers, because it says allies affected by your blessings have 50% increased movement speed. Doesn't specify your freedom or your Blessing of Protection, so you would naturally assume that would affect your Blessing of Summer and all your other blessings, but not the case. Vengeful Wrath is nothing important. 50% increased damage on your Hammer of Wrath is nothing. 50% increase on something that does no damage is going to give you a little bit less no damage, so that's kind of how I view it. We have a lot of safety talents here for self-reliability. Inspired Guard is a lock-in, giving you 50% increased healing on your Divine Protection, so long as it persists, which lasts about, 12 12 seconds, 8 seconds. Yeah, really, really good for kind of our own self-support. And then Eye for an Eye is really good. You have basically built-in thorns into your Divine Protection. It takes for about 100k, 100 plus k each tick, so very, very nice to have. And if you don't need this, you can definitely take Selfless Healer. It's just extra healing, 10% on your Holy Light and Flash of Light. On our talents, for our arena, we only really swap between Searing Glare, Hollowed Ground, and then Judgment of the Pure, Divine Plea. Those are the only ones that are really considerable for your arena. Denounce is strictly a 2's talent, no really real flexibility other than that. So, Searing Glare first. Searing Glare is an amazing spell. 45-second cooldown, 25-yard range in a cone, and enemies hit by this will miss their attacks for 4 seconds. So really, really great if you can get really high value Searing Glares by Searing Glaring all 3 of their targets. Really, really powerful. You know, kind of buys you a little bit of time in that moment. Unless they don't get dispelled, they'll miss their traps, they'll miss their kidney shots, they'll miss their axe toss, they'll miss their hammer of justice. Really, really good spell if you can get some high value out of it. Now, other options, Judgment of the Pure is strictly only good for one situation, and it's cleansing your own Strangulate from a DK, and the DK is the only one that has a magic effect. So, what this skill does is that whenever you cast Judgment, it'll cleanse one poison, disease, and magic effect they have caused on you. Really, really great. Now, the reason why I say this is great against the DK is because you can theoretically cleanse your own Strangulate from the DK. Now, the problem is that if there's other classes on that team that have magic effects, this won't work. Strangulate is a magic effect, and all DKs have are diseases. So, theoretically, it should only cleanse the disease from Virgin of Plague or maybe Frost Fever, and then the magic effect from this will cleanse Strangulate. However, if there's another class that has a different magic effect, like let's say a Purge the Wicked from the Disc Priest, or they have a Boomkin on the team, the Moonfire, the Sunfire, then it'll the likelihood of actually getting Strangulate is slim to none. So I really only take Judgment of the Pure if I'm guaranteed the shot to actually cleanse Strangulate. That's it. That's the only reason why I run that. Divine Plea is mana. Mana, this is a very good skill. However, it's almost counterintuitive. So you restore 750,000 mana over 20 seconds whenever you cast Aura Mastery, but your healing and damage is decreased by 30%. So again, it's the real kind of old playstyle of healers of sacrifice this to gain this. So the reason why Divine Plea is good is because that's a lot of freaking mana. Alright, and in a game like this where a lot of games can definitely go into deep damp, yeah, having that mana being ahead is really, really strong. Now the problem with this is that it makes it so you can't really use Aura Mastery the way you want to. So I want to use Aura Mastery pretty much almost off CD, always being able to pre-Aura goes, having this 1.5 minute cooldown to give me some defensive power, one of the best defensives in the game, absolutely awesome. But now it's tied to this skill that reduces my damage and healing done by 30%. So you would only really be able to use Aura Mastery in windows where the damage really isn't there. Which I don't really want to use it during that window. I want to use it when the damage is there because it's a defensive cooldown. So with this, you can only really use it during downtime when they don't have any sort of, they don't have their Bestial Wrath. They don't have their 1 minute cooldowns available. Because you have to be very careful when using Aura Mastery, because you can pop Aura Mastery, and sure you'll get 24% damage reduction, and you'll get some mana, but then they'll pop Call of the Wild, and it's like, well, frick! Like, I'm doing 30% less healing, I'm screwed! So you have to be very careful when using Divine Plea, only really using it when you know there's no damage going out there, alright? So you almost are counterintuitive to take out, like, Unraving Spirit, maybe even Divine Vision as well, to fully go into either playing mana or playing Aura Mastery talents for simply the actual safety effect of Aura Mastery. So it's a bit counterintuitive, but it still requires a bit of testing to really see what the real impact is of having Divine Plea. So it's a bit left to it's left to the pros to decide that. But that's kind of how I have experienced it. Now, the only other talent is Hallowed Ground. Again, I said this before, Consecrated Ground, your Righteous Judgment in Hallowed Ground. Super impactful versus those heavy slows. keeping your team, specifically your melee, on the move by having their snares be suppressed. So really, really great, especially if you're having to pillar a little bit more often. So against a frost mage, you can kind of just consecration, move around the pillar. You can't be slowed at all. That frozen orb, who cares? It's doing damage to me, but it's not slowing me. Awesome. So, and because you can consecration, it can save you some time on using Blessing of Freedom, so you can't get spell stolen from the pesky little mages, or you can simply run Divine Steed. Who cares? But yeah, so really good talents there. Now for RBGs, it's a little bit different. For RBGs and blitzes, it's a little bit more different. I focus on two different things, more spread healing with the Beacon of Virtue. So instead of running Beacon of Faith, I run Beacon of Virtue. Beacon of Virtue is absolutely amazing. So 50-second cooldown, it applies 5 Beacon of Lights out there, one including me. And this just offers you a lot of spread healing for 8 seconds. I just pop my Beacon of Virtue. You see, we're all affected by the... oh, it didn't affect me. What the hell? Whatever. Applies a Beacon of Virtue out there, and I'm just simply spam healing, and every one of these targets is getting healed for pretty gnarly amounts. Now, 8 seconds is pretty short, you know, so you may not like this, but I personally love this, especially during my wings. It's God mode. The minute I have Beacon of Virtue up there, no one on my team is dying. That's how I have experienced this. Now, Beacon of Faith is still good for RBGs, and it is definitely the more safer option, especially for blitzes, because in blitz is only, what, 8 people in there, so you're never actually going to have a lot of team fights where you're going to have more than, 5 people in that mix. So Beacon of Faith is definitely still a good option there. But for RBGs, it's pretty interesting. So the idea of having Beacon of Faith over Beacon of Virtue in an RPG setting is that you feel like your mana is getting drained by casting Beacon of Virtue, and that the healing downtime when your Beacon of Virtue is not available is kind of screwing you over. So instead of that, you can definitely just run normal beacons. That's completely fine. Now, in an RPG setting, how would I place my beacons? There's 10 people, there's only 2 beacons. How would I place my beacons? Well, for me, I'm an offensive healer. So, my leader always puts me on offense for healing. For me, I place my Beacon of Virtue, or sorry, my Beacon of Light and Faith on targets I want to keep alive the most. Again, just like the arena, I want to keep my beacons on the targets I'm going to be focused the most. But for me, I want to keep it on the targets I want to keep in the fight 90% of the time. So one of my beacons is going to go on my top DPS. This is the man that's going to be killing their entire teams, doing like 200 million damage across the board above everyone else, hitting 2 million DPS. This guy's a monster. All right, Pop, shout out to you. I want to keep my Beacon of Light on my friend. All right. Now my second beacon will go onto either my second top damage, or most likely my target caller. My target caller is important because, well, he's the one who's making the shots. He's the one who's telling the team, directing the team, what we need to kill, what needs to die in this fight. So I need to keep him in the fight and my top DPS in the fight because they're the most valuable in this team fight. So whenever I'm healing anyone else in this fight, I'm going to have some bit of healing on them at all times. Really nice. Now, the other situations where I'll put a beacon on different targets is situational. For example, if one of my healers is getting trained to the ground, guess what? I'll place one of my beacons on them. I'll sacrifice a bit of extra support to, ensure that my top DPS and my target caller live in the fight to help my healer. If he's getting trained the entire game, I'll make sure I have a beacon on him to make sure I always have some bit of healing there, some bit of support on him when I'm healing other targets. My tank, if I need to escort our flag carrier, I'll place a beacon on her because she's a tank. He needs to get across so we can cap the flag. Pretty freaking standard, not rocket science, people. So anytime I'm healing myself or anyone else, they're always going to get my healing. But in general, I'm an offensive healer, so I place my beacons on my top DPS and my target caller, rarely switching it during the situation for my other healers or my tank. With this, we are also taking Light Bearer. Light Bearer is pretty nice to have. It's just a little bit of extra healing. 10% of all healing done to me from other sources, so my other healers, is going to be evenly distributed onto 4 nearby allies. It's just a little bit of extra healing. Who can really not get down with that? Now, again, standard consecrated ground, righteous judgment, hallowed ground. If I'm in either Storm or Silvershard Mines, very tight close maps like that where I'm going to get super high value off of these three talents, very, very good. It allows my team to just kind of move around the map or move around these fights So really powerful combination there. And the only difference between the build is Holy Prism over Barrier of Faith. Holy Prism I like a little bit more for RBGs, simply just because, you know, I want to do a bit of extra damage, and having single target kind of spells like Barrier of Faith in an RBG setting doesn't really feel that great. So Holy Prism is pretty nice to have. Holy Prism either has two effects: do damage or do healing. If I use it on an ally, it'll do damage to 5 nearby targets. So you see it'll do some decent healing on this target here, and then beam those guys over there. Really nice. And if I use it on an enemy, it'll beam this enemy for a good amount of damage, and then heal 5 nearby allies. So pretty nice extra bit of damage and healing. And then Imbued Infusions is pretty nice just to have throughout the game, because it's just nice, you know, a bit of rotational help. 1 second off of Flash Shock in this very long team fight can go a long way of kind of helping me out rotationally. Very nice. And in terms of honor talents, it's kind of the whole same standard thing. In here, you can definitely run Divine Plea with Aura Mastery. It does not really hurt you as much as it does in Arena, because you have 2 other healers to back you up. So you can definitely run Divine Plea if you're really gonna kind of go the distance in these team fights. Really good skill. And then Searing Glare is just a really nice talent. I only really run this, and again, the tight close maps in Eye of the Storm, in Silver Shard Mines, you know, in other maps where I can have more room to move around, kind of play it back a little bit further. I won't really run Searing Glare, because running in just to Searing Glare does not feel that great. So I'll run Searing Glare for that, for those 2 maps. And then the other talents, Cleanse the Weak, is just, it's just not good. Now, ideally, you would think this is good, because the cleanse, when you cleanse an ally, one ally within 40 yards is spelled of the same 4 effects, but the cooldown of cleanse is increased by 4 seconds. It's just not that great. I mean, any dispel talent that's not purification for a priest is kind of troll for your honor talents, but it can have some bit of use. The thing is that if you're facing anything like, let's say, a Shadow Priest or specifically an Aflock, you're cleansing all those unstable afflictions. Yeah, you're dead. Like, you're just straight up dead. So that's why it's such a sketchy talent to have. I don't really see a world where you could really run this. And maybe if there's an Elia Shaman, you know, kind of popping off. There's a DK in the mix. You know, something where you can cleanse and you won't get super bullied by the dispels. Yeah, maybe you can take Cleanse the Weak and take... I'm not actually sure if just reward proc off of the Cleanse the Weak dispels on all your allies within your aura. I'm not too sure about that. I'll have to test that. But if that does work, then hell, screw whatever the hell I'm saying. Give me a just reward and Cleanse the Weak. But right now, it's just not really a super powerful talent. Spreading the word doesn't even work at the time. It's theoretically a really good talent. So you will have some bit of enhancements to your Blessing of Freedom and Blessing of Protection for all allies in your aura. Your Blessing of Freedom, all allies in your aura will have their own movement impairing effects cleansed. Now, this is all movement impairing effects, yet it doesn't cleanse roots. Sometimes it cleanses roots, sometimes it doesn't. And it's not like they're not in range of my aura, because my aura is 70 yards, so I don't really know what's happening there. The Blessing of Protection is really powerful. I think this is the only one that works. So whenever you pop Blessing of Protection, physical damage reduced by 30% for 6 seconds, and everyone who's in my aura, that's legit just another defensive cooldown. That's another defensive cooldown. So you basically have 1, 3, 5, and then 6, 7. Like, you have basically 7 defensive cooldowns as a Holy Paladin if you're running Spreading the Word in RBGs. It's pretty nasty. Now, we have Darkest Before Dawn. You're not really casting Light of Dawn ever, so this is kind of a bad talent. And then Ultimate Sacrifice just hasn't really seen too much play in today's time. 100% of the damage that target receives now transfers to me and lasts 6 seconds, but will no longer cancel when I fall below 20% health. I don't know, it just hasn't really seemed that impactful. There's really no need to have this, is kind of what I'm getting at. So it lasts shorter. The reason why Blessing of Sacrifice is so good is because it lasts 12 seconds, meaning for that 12 seconds you can't be CC'd by, you know, break on damage type effects, because 90% of the time they're always going to break. So it's really nice. And 6 second sack for 100% of the damage converted to me is very sketchy, especially now that it does not cancel. So can't be pretty sus. I mean, sometimes you'll even have to use Divine Shield just as Blessing of Sacrifice. The whole strat used to be bubble sacking your tank or your FC when they had the flag, but it's just, I don't know. I'm not even on defense anymore, so I don't really need that at all. And really, it just kind of feels awkward if you don't have Blessing or Divine Shield. The odds of you dying are pretty likely, so you definitely have to just yell at your team, yo, heal me, spam heal me. So pretty interesting. And that's pretty much all the talents there. And we'll also go over another build in case you really want to. Melee Wings. Alright, Melee Wings is a huge joke, but you know what? Maybe it can have some play. So Melee Wings is pretty interesting. It's simply revolving around a Fist Reaver playstyle where you're up in their face, you're doing damage to heal with Crusader Strike and Judgment. Very nice. Now, for Melee Wings, it's an entirely different playstyle, so you have to have different stats. You have to be more haste lenient. Okay, so you have to drop mastery, you have to drop critical strike to get a really good amount of haste to run Avenging Crusader. If you don't have a lot of haste for Avenging Crusader, it feels even worse than it already does. So for Avenging Crusader, I take Holy Prism. You can take Barrier Faith as well, just to kind of help you out outside of your melee wings. But I like having damage, so I take Holy Prism. But I'm really taking a lot of extra stuff here. Righteous Judgment, I'm going to be spamming Judgment throughout the entire game, especially as a Lightsmith, to proc many things for the damage, to proc Hammer of Anvil, to proc my Consecration. It's really good. And Liberation, because you're going to have a lot of extra haste, you're going to get a lot of Liberation procs where you're going to be able to reduce the mana cost of your Judgment or your Crusader Strike or Holy Light by 6,000. Truth Prevails is really good for having just a little bit of extra healing when you cast Judgment, and the overhealing, it really doesn't matter. The mana reduction on your Judgment, it just makes Judgment a much more impactful button to press. Really good. Now, during the Melee Wings window, I usually have my On-Use Trinket. I need to get a better one. I actually have enough Conquest, I think. On-Use Trinket I like having for Melee Wings because you're really trying to send Melee Wings to have the most amount of power possible. And I know it's a very hard dilemma because it's not like Fist Reavers where Fist Reaver, has their damage, it has their Ancient Teachings up the entire time with the Jade Fire Stomps, the Thunder Focus Tees. It's an entirely different playstyle, entirely different rotation. Whereas Melee Wings is just a single window. So it feels awkward when you have to kind of build everything around that one window, and outside of that window, you're kind of just sitting there doing nothing. So I do like your On-Use stat trinket for beefing up Melee Wings as much as possible, so you can do more damage and in turn do more healing. But to feel like you're just dying outside of Melee Wings, you could definitely take your proc trinket or even your emblem for if you're getting swapped to. So yeah, all good trinkets are available for Holy Paladin, which is really nice. So yeah, this is kind of the whole build for your PvP talents. You would run Judgment of the Pure or Searing Glare, or Hallowed Ground if you're really gonna be messing around with the Righteous Judgments. If you're not, then take like Moment of Compassion for your own little shenanigan there. But yeah, Judgment of the Pure, Searing Glare, Hallowed Ground are all really good options. You see here, I don't actually take Tears of Deliverance because in order to kind of play Melee Wings, not in order to play Melee Wings, but in order to have a little bit of extra help, you kind of need the extra bit of points. So I take out Tears of Deliverance for that, to run Truth Prevails, Liberation. Maybe you don't want Liberation, you can definitely take the Crusader's Might, which is the cooldown of your Holy Shock and Judgment by 2 seconds. Really good. Honestly, I probably would take this over Liberation. Sorry, I had to burp there. Yeah, this is kind of what we're looking at for Melee Wings. And of course, we're taking a bit more self-reliant talents here with the Eye for an Eye. If you need the Face Armor, you can definitely take Face Armor. You can kind of drop out of, yeah, this is actually kind of hard here. Drop out of like Consecrated Ground, maybe if you don't need the slow power for Face Armor, really good. If you don't need the Stoicism for that, you can definitely take Face Armor. So kind of a little bit awkward for the Melee Wings to kind of work around because the self-reliant talents are really good, and kind of the pathing towards them and how many talents you really need is a little bit sketchy, which is why Lightsmith Melee Wings is a little bit awkward. But in general, it's a nice little playstyle to have. You're kind of just going in there and just kind of popping off with the Melee Wings. Now for Lightsmith talents, they're all very standard. Let's actually put on my proc trinket just to kind of go over like the rotation, I guess. For Lightsmith talents, it's all very standard for the Melee Wings. I'd say Rite of Sanctification is still a little bit better overall. You get a bit of extra armor, a bit of extra primary stat. Rite of Adjuration, again, just does not proc. Blessed Assurance over Divine Guidance. I'm actually not sure. I think Divine Guidance is actually much better than Blessed Assurance because you're going to be in their face, meaning you're going to be Consecration feels like a much better global to press with or without your Hallowed Ground and your Consecrated Ground. So it feels a lot better. It's going to do some nice spread damage, spread healing. Blessed Assurance only gives you an extra 40% damage on your Crusader Strike, which is still good, but it requires you to cast a Holy Power ability. So we'll kind of go into the opener here, make sure my beacons are applied right now. Kind of pop my my weapons out here, go into my wings, Judgment First Global, And then kind of Crusader Strike. So yeah, Judgment gets off cooldown really quickly. Very nice. And then you can kind of use Shield of the Righteous. I use Shield of the Righteous during my melee wings because it reduces the cooldown of my Crusader Strike by a second and a half, I believe. And then getting that Bliss Assurance buff, because I'm using Shield of the Righteous, which is a Holy Power Spender, to buff the damage of my Crusader Strike, is pretty nice. So you see here, Crusader Strike is hitting for really nice numbers. Now, of course, this is in PvP combat, so you can definitely see some 500Ks there. But yeah, Judgment hits really nicely. I actually don't know why Judgment didn't really hit that hard that match, but whatever, who cares? Yeah, it's a pretty nice playstyle. It's very fun. It's very punishing. All right, there's like no worlds where you'd want to play melee wings over normal wings in terms of pure efficiency. But if you want to have fun, go get some haste gear on your Holy Paladin, run your melee wings build, and it's nice and fun. So I would definitely recommend it if you are pretty bored with the natural playstyle of Holy Paladin. Yeah, this is kind of what we run here. Temper to Battle is obviously just the best for this build. Again, any bit of safety healing you can get for Holy Paladin, safety defense, eye for an eye, Tempered to Battle, Faith Armor, Stoicism, you know, any bit of safety you can get from all this stuff here is going to be much impactful because you're going to be caught out of position a lot of time because you have to be in their face. So any bit of safety right there to kind of help you if you do try to get punished is going to be exponentially grateful.